You know that feeling, right?
Yeah.
It's like 11 p.m. on a Tuesday. You promised yourself, you swore you were going to be productive.
Mm-hmm.
You were finally going to open that language textbook that's been, I don't know, gathering dust for years.
The road to fluency is paved with good intentions and unread grammar books.
Exactly. And instead, you're 4 episodes deep into a sitcom you've definitely seen 3 times already, and you feel comfortable, sure, but there's that nagging sense of, like, waste.
Ah, the binge-watching guilt spiral, a classic.
It's the worst. But what if that guilt is misplaced? We've been looking into this fascinating strategic blueprint that claims that very habit, that lazy habit,
Mm-hmm.
could actually be a more effective path to fluency than the textbook you're ignoring.
It does sound a bit like an infomercial promise, doesn't it? Watch TV, get smart.
Right.
But the source material, which calls this the Netflix method, is surprisingly grounded in how our brains actually acquire skills. It argues that we've just, fundamentally misunderstood what watching TV can do.
Okay, but I have to play devil's advocate right out of the gate here.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about learning by osmosis, are we? I can't just put a French movie on in the background and wake up fluent.
No. And that is the absolute key distinction the source makes. There's passive watching, which is what 99% of us do. You're zoning out, reading subtitles, maybe checking your phone.
Guilty.
And then there's structured watching. This method is all about turning your living room into a language lab. And supposedly, it only takes about 20 minutes a day.
I'm listening. Because I think a lot of us have tried the just watching approach. I have friends who say, oh, I'm learning Spanish. They watch Money Heist for 6 months, but they can't order a coffee in Madrid. Why does that fail so often?
It's what the source calls the osmosis trap. When you watch passively, your brain wants the path of least resistance to the story. If you've got subtitles on.
So just read.
You just read. Your brain literally ignores the audio because reading is faster and easier. You think you're listening, but you're actually just reading a movie.
So you're processing text, not sound.
Exactly. And even if you turn the subtitles off, without a system, your brain just treats the foreign language as background noise. It gets the emotion. Someone's angry, someone's sad, but it doesn't decode the mechanics. You're entertained, but you're not learning.
It brings up a really interesting point the source makes about textbook English versus Netflix English. This feels like the wall that so many intermediate learners hit. They know the rules, but they can't understand real people.
That's the usage gap. Textbooks teach structure. They're clean. They're polite. Hello, how are you today?
I am fine, thank you.
Huh?
Nobody talks like that.
Nobody. You walk into a coffee shop, you get, how's it going? Or what you up to? Real English is messy. It's full of what linguists call connected speech. Words they just blend together.
Oh, like when did you eat becomes jeet.
Jeet. That's a perfect example. A textbook is never going to teach you jeet, but a sitcom will. And this method is designed specifically to train your ear for that messiness. The mumbling, the slang, the interruptions.
The stuff that usually makes us panic and turn the subtitles right back on.
Precisely. The goal isn't to learn rules. It's to train your brain to recognize patterns in the chaos of real spoken language.
Okay, so we need to stop treating Netflix like a relaxation tool and more like raw data. The source outlines a very specific 4-step Netflix method.
And it's built on short bursts, right? Not a whole movie.
Right, and please, do not try to do this for a 2-hour movie. You will hate it. The source is very clear. You pick one scene, 2 to 5 minutes, that's it. You're going deep, not wide.
Let's walk through it. Step 1 seems pretty normal. Watch with subtitles.
This is your baseline. You pick that short scene, maybe from a show like Friends or The Office. You watch it with English subtitles on. The goal here is just context. You just need to know what's happening.
So no pressure yet. This is the comfort zone.
Zero pressure. Just get the gist. The source says don't even pause. Just let it play.
Okay, done. We know what's going on in the scene. Now, step 2 is where we shift gears. Observation mode. This is where you switch from being an audience member to being a detective. You watch the exact same scene again, subtitles still on, but this time you're completely ignoring the plot.
You're looking for the data.
You're looking for the data. The source says to look for new vocabulary, sure, but more importantly, sentence structure and pronunciation quirks. You're trying to connect the text you see with the sound you actually hear.
So this is where you'd notice that the actor didn't say going to. They said gonna.
Precisely. Or you'd notice how their voice goes up at the end of a sentence that isn't a question. You're analyzing the delivery, the stress, the emotion. You're basically auditing the difference between written and spoken English.
It's like analyzing the sheet music before you try to play the song.
That's a great analogy. Yes,
Yeah.
you're studying the notes.
Okay, we've watched it, we've analyzed it. Now we get to step 3. And honestly, this is the part where I think most people will probably bail.
Step 3 is the workout. This is the shadowing phase.
The term shadowing gets thrown around a lot, but the source is really specific about how to do it. It's not just mumbling along, is it?
No, and that's the biggest mistake people make. This isn't passive repeating. The source calls it active mimicry. You play the scene, you pause after every single sentence, and you repeat it out loud.
Okay.
But, and this is the most important part, you can't just say the words in your normal voice. You have to match the speed, the intonation, and the emotion of the character on screen.
So if the character is screaming at their boss, I should be screaming at my TV.
Ideally, yeah. If they're whispering, you whisper. If they're being sarcastic, you have to sound sarcastic.
I feel like my neighbors are going to think I'm losing my mind.
Yeah.
Why is the acting part so important?
Because language isn't just words, it's a melody. It's what's called prosody, the rhythm, the stress, the music. When you just say the words flatly, you strip all of that away. By forcing yourself to act it out, you're tricking your brain into using the correct stress patterns without even thinking about it.
It's like muscle memory. You don't think about every little movement when you throw a ball.
It is exactly like muscle memory. You are building speaking muscles. You bypass the analytical part of your brain that worries about grammar, and you engage the part that handles instinct and emotion. You stop sounding like a student and start sounding like a person.
That's fascinating. You're trying to inhabit the character, not just translate them.
Yes. You're borrowing their voice until you can find your own.
Okay, I've screamed at my TV. I've done my best acting job. Now comes step 4, the test.
The training wheels come off. Step 4 is simple. Subtitles off. You watch the scene one last time, just raw audio.
And the idea is that after all that work, you shouldn't be lost anymore.
You should actually be shocked at how much you understand. Because you've already dissected it, you've spoken the lines, your brain is primed. The source says this is where the prominent wiring happens. You are finally engaging in pure listening.
It's amazing how much we rely on subtitles. I even catch myself reading them for shows in my own language. It's just easier.
It's a crutch. And when you take it away, you force your brain to adapt. You're proving to yourself that you can understand fast, natural speech. It's a huge confidence booster.
I want to dig into that rewiring idea a bit more.
Mm.
The source touches on the neuroscience of this. Why this repetitive loop? Watch, observe, shadow, test. Why is that so much better than just, watching an hour of different stuff?
It comes down to the difference between declarative memory and procedural memory.
Okay, break that down.
Declarative memory is knowing facts. It's knowing that went is the past tense of go. That's textbook stuff. Procedural memory is knowing how. It's a reflex. It's like riding a bike.
And we want language to be like riding a bike.
We want it to be a reflex, not a calculation. This method builds that reflex by hitting 3 systems: sound recognition, pattern learning, and speech production. The repetition is what moves the skill from your thinking brain to your doing brain.
From declarative to procedural.
Exactly. But the real magic, according to the source, is the mental shift away from translation.
Ah, the translation struggle. Every learner knows this. Your brain just freezes while you're trying to figure out the grammar of what someone just said.
Right. You're going subject dot verb object. And by the time you figured it out, the conversation is 5 sentences ahead of you. It's exhausting.
So exhausting.
Fluent speakers don't do that. They recognize patterns. When you hear, how's it going? You don't parse the grammar. You just recognize that entire sound block as a greeting. This method forces that pattern recognition by drilling it over and over.
So you're basically creating a shortcut, bypassing the translation center and going straight to the meaning center.
That's the goal. You want to stop translating and start feeling.
That's a really powerful idea. Okay, let's get practical. We have the method, but what should we be watching? I'm a big fan of fantasy shows. Can I use this to learn how to command dragons?
You can, but the source strongly advises against it, at least at first.
Ah, dreams crushed.
Yeah. Utility. Learning the Elvish word for a magic sword isn't going to help you in a business meeting, unless, I guess, your business meeting is going very, very badly.
Fair point.
The source says to stick to slice-of-life content, sitcoms, modern dramas, interview shows.
Because the vocabulary is high frequency.
Exactly. It's the 80-20 rule. 20% of the words are used 80% of the time. In a show like Modern Family, you're going to hear, I'm running late, or are you kidding me? Dozens of times. Those are the real building blocks.
So save the dragons for later.
Save the dragons for your victory lap. Start with regular people with regular problems.
Okay, the other big barrier is time. We promised 20 minutes, but I know if I sit down to watch Netflix, that can easily become 2 hours. How does the source structure this so it doesn't spiral?
It provides a very strict 20-minute daily plan. It's designed to be tight so you stop before you get distracted.
Walk us through that breakdown.
Okay, minutes 1 to 5, you watch your new scene with subtitles. First pass.
Yeah.
Simple. Minutes 6 to 10, you watch it again, but in observation mode. That's your detective work. Maybe you jot down a phrase.
Okay, halfway there.
Minutes 11 to 15, this is your shadowing block. High intensity. 5 minutes of proper shadowing is actually pretty tiring.
Like a workout sprint.
It is. And then minutes 16 to 20, watch without subtitles. That's the test. And then, and this is key, you stop.
You just turn it off.
You turn off the work. If you want to keep watching passively, go for it. But the structured practice is done for the day. This prevents burnout.
Right. Consistency over intensity.
The source is adamant about that. 20 minutes every day is infinitely better than a 4-hour binge once a week.
There was one other little tactic I really like about what you should write down. The phrase collection trick.
Oh, yeah. This is such a common mistake learners make. They love to collect rare, fancy words.
I feel personally attacked. My notebook is full of words I've never actually said out loud.
We all do it. But the source argues you should be collecting useful phrases, those little chunks of language.
What are some examples from the source?
Things that seem almost too simple to write down, like, that makes sense, or, what do you mean, I'm working on it? Let's figure it out.
See, my instinct would be to ignore those because I know all the individual words.
But do you know how to say, what do you mean? So it sounds like one fluid sound. What do y'all mean?
What do ya mean?
Right. If you master the delivery of those common phrases, you sound fluent instantly. You aren't building the sentence from scratch. You're just deploying a pre-built unit.
I like that. Deploying a unit. It changes the whole mindset.
And TV shows are the best place to find them.
So zooming out, we have the method, the schedule, the strategy. I want us to go back to the psychology of it. The source talks about how this helps you stop translating and start recognizing.
Yes.
But I wonder if there's something even deeper. If you're shadowing a character that closely, matching their anger, their joy, do you eventually stop just learning the language and start feeling it?
That's a profound question. There's this concept in language learning called the language ego. A lot of people feel shy speaking a new language because they feel like they lose their personality. They can't be witty or smart. They just feel basic.
Like a toddler, yeah.
But when you're shadowing a character, you're not being you. You're adopting their ego. You're putting on a mask. And that can be incredibly liberating.
So adopting the character actually helps you bypass the fear of speaking.
I think so. For 5 minutes, it's easier to be Chandler Bing than it is to be yourself struggling with grammar. It just lowers the stakes.
That is such a cool way to look at it. You're not just learning English words, you're trying on an English persona.
And eventually that persona just becomes a part of your own.
So here's the challenge for everyone listening. The source says to start today, not tomorrow, today.
Pick one scene, just one, 2 minutes long.
Use the 4 steps, watch with subtitles for context, observe the details like a detective, shadow the actors, and really act it out.
And then turn the subtitles off and see what happens. It'll feel awkward, but push through it.
And who knows, maybe you'll finally understand that joke in the office without having to pause and look it up.
That feeling alone is worth it.
Something to think about next time you reach for that remote. Thanks for joining us on